Greetings, it's Ian from RTO here. Welcome to another round of Battle Royale. We are in second round and we're at tie 3. And it is, never mind the Bollocks, Sex Pistols from David Hunt against New Order Technique from Jimmy Barnes. And during round 2, we're going to look at the album artwork and the stories behind them. We're going to start off with a very controversial one that made the news. And that, of course, is the Sex Pistols' Never Mind the Bollocks. So it is in its glory. And then you flip it over to the B-side. None of your boring stuff. It's a pink background with like new paper cuttings, like if you're doing a ransom note. So who came up with this concept? Well, it was designed by Jamie Reed, who sadly passed away last year. But this is not his original. His original was this, a drab black and white one. Not very colourful and not eye-catching. So let's put it back on in its glory. Now, the fluorescent colours were chosen and printed in order to be noticed and to offend. So where did this all come from? Well, Malcolm McLaren came up with a concept that they wanted the most ugliest cover they could come up with. That in a sense would attack the idea of super graphics. I wanted to make ugliness beautiful. Now, the artist in question was a bit of a renegade, and they wanted a renegade, and Matt McLaren had heard of Jamie, so he wrote a short telegram to him and said, do you want to do it? Now, Jamie Reed studied at Croydon Art College in the late 60s and got him interested in what he was doing. Now, the original album was actually going to be titled God Save Sex Pistols, but Jamie Reed's concept refrained from including a picture of the group instead of the Dayglow red and yellow colour within the cutout lettering and finish resembling a crude screen print, while the US version would have been pink with green Sex Pistols logo. But when they changed the title of it in mid-1997, that was actually based on a phrase supplied by Steve Jones from Two Fans, who would always say, never mind the bollocks. Johnny Rotten explained its meaning to be as a working class expression to stop talking rubbish. So there you go. But of course this album cover caused absolute uproar. So this is a bit of history. Now, the album cover was actually subject to what Hyland described as blatant acts of censorship exercised by media and retail outlets alike. The London police visited the city's Virgin Record store branches, and this is what they told them, that they face prosecution for indecency as stipulated by the 1899 Indecent Advertisements Act if they continue to display posters of the album cover in their windows. So the displays were either toned down or removed. However, 9th of November 1977, 2 days before the album was released, the Evening Standard announced on its front page headline, "Police move in on punk disc shops," and reported how Virgin record store manager in Nottingham was arrested for displaying the record after being word to cover up the word bollocks. Chris Searle, the shop's manager, said it would appear willing to set himself up as a target, possibly at Branson's behest, according to Hyland, who noted that he had been visited by the police on 4 occasions and resumed displaying copies of the record in the store windows after they'd left on each occasion. After his arrest, Branson announced he would cover the manager's legal costs and hired Queen's Counsel John Mortimer, no less, his defence. Meanwhile, advertisements for the album were appearing in music pages attempted to politicise the issue, showing the newspaper headlines about the Sex Pistols controversies, underlined in the message, "The album will last, the sleeve may not." So the court case was heard on the 24th of November, and Mortimer presented the case as a matter of police discrimination. During his cross-examination of the arresting officer, he asked why the newspapers, The Guardian and the Evening Standard, which referred to the album's name, were not charged under the same act. So when the overseeing magistrate inquired about his line of question, Mortimer stated that a double standard apparently at play, that Bollocks was only considered obscene when it appeared on the cover of a Sex Pistols album. So he continued with his cross-examination, and the album itself is not lured visage on trial for indecency, according to Hyland. Mortimer produced an expert witness, Professor James Kingsley, head of the School of English, who argued the word bollocks was not obscene and was actually a legitimate Old English term formerly used to refer to as a priest, and which the context of the time means nonsense. The English translation of the use of the word bollocks refers to the man bits, and this was being replaced by stones. So during the case, Johnny Rotten handed Robinson a note saying, "Don't worry, if we lose the case, we're reintended. Never mind the stones. Here's the Sex Pistols," and it was all sort of wrapped up. So there's a bit of history about this cover, very controversial, and it got to court. I sort of remember it vaguely because it was big news. But it's still one of the most now it's just one of the most iconic covers. So there we go, David Hunt's Sex Pistols. Good luck with that one, as ever. So who's he up against? Well, he's up against 1989's New Order album Technique, which was put in by Jimmy Barnes. As you can see, there we go. So let's have a look. Now this was designed by Peter Saville, who was sort of connected with Factory Records, and he produced covers for a lot of the bands on Factory, including Joy Division and most of New Order's. So there's the front cover. We'll just flip it over to the back. No track listings, and just 4 different designs of the, well, 3 different colour designs, backgrounds of the original. So let's have a look at this one. So New Order, this is what was said. Peter Saville sort of started in Pimlico Road to look at antique shops, right? And he saw this cherub statue, so they decided to use it for Technique. It was a garden ornament, and we rented it for a shoot. It's very Bacadian image, which fitted with the moment before the last financial crash and the drug-fueled hedonism involved in the music scene. It was also my first iconic work. All previous sleeves were somewhat idyllic and utopian. I had the idea that the art and design could make the world a better place, that even bus stops could be better. It's strange. And in some ways it's also quite a neo-Warhol. And before he'd ever seen the sleeve, Rob Gretton suggested that Peter Saville's New Order as the title of the album, as Andy Warhol's Velvet Underground went down like a lead balloon with the band. Now the cherub, so you've got this sort of cherub and the different colours, and Now, we know this album was recorded in Ibiza, so it's got that technical sort of side to it. Once again, I think this is another iconic cover. It's... I don't know if I like the purple background because it doesn't show the cherub off. Now, if we flick back to the back cover, the one that really, I think, it's just to play the white cover because the cherub is more as a focal point. It's iconic that the band weren't too keen on it, and because they reminded they put it like with Andy Warhol's Banana on the Velvet Underground album. It's strange, but it seemed to work, and I remember seeing this in the shops. You had to go and have a look what it was. I think the only other thing is it hasn't got anything on there to say it's Technique. There's no words, so I think there. So when you could just compare them, both brightly covered, both eye-catching, and it's just different sorts of history, isn't it? You've got this most controversial one, and one that the band they weren't very keen on. But you can see Peter Saville's ideas behind it, Obviously he was a bit of a fan of Andy Warhol and using objects. And if you look at his other covers, they're striking, but not as striking as this one. So there we go. Two great album covers, I think. So good luck with Jimmy with this one. As ever, you've now got to choose which one you want to go through. So you've got now all about the music, you've the songs on the albums, you've now got a bit of history of the covers. So out of these two albums, which do you want to go into the quarterfinals? So how do you do the voting? Well, at 2 p.m. today in the community, on the community page, the poll goes up, and it'll be up there till midnight next Wednesday, and then it'll be a poll on the live stream tonight. So good luck, chaps, and I do believe Jimmy is coming on the live stream tonight to plug why this album should win this week. Okay, next week's is against Bridge Over Troubled Water by Simon and Garth Uncle, which is one of Richard McCook's, and David Hunt again. So David Hunt's 2 weeks on the trot, and his other album was Bat Out of Hell by Meatloaf. So that's next week's. I'll be back very shortly with a pick and mix, and we're doing mixing it up, and we're going to look at a producer, and we're going to look at a requested producer, and that is folk singer producer Jonathan Wilson. So join me for that soon. Bye for now.